Day 30, Dante's Inferno and Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. And I know at first glance this doesn't sound like history class. I mean, Dante's Inferno is a book, and Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God is a sermon. But I wanted to give you a little taste of something called the humanities. And the humanities is a study that combines what you may learn in English class and what you learn in the social sciences. So, for instance, Dante's Inferno is a piece of literature, but it had an effect on sociology, had an effect on theology, and those studies are social science. And I started class with 3 heavy-duty questions about the vision of the afterlife and how you conduct yourself during your lifetime. And a lot of people said, I'm constantly thinking about the afterlife. It keeps me straight in this lifetime. And, some people said, well, isn't that time that you could be doing something else? And they said, no, it's time well spent. It's an important question we all ask ourselves. We had a wide range from people who never think about it, people who think about it daily, and people who think about it once in a blue moon. And the second question I asked the class is answering the questions of the afterlife the most important function of religion? And a lot of people said yes, although some people also said it's to explain why I'm here or how to conduct myself. But we all agreed it is an important function of religion. To paraphrase Sigmund Freud, as long as man has a fear of death, he will always have a need for religion. And some people were very put off by that. Some people agreed with Freud. But I think the sentiment is there that human beings and the questions of death, there needs to be answers, and religion can provide that. And the controversial one is, are there multiple paths to heaven or only one? And again, I don't have answers. I have questions. And it was a good starting point. Now on to a quick Prezi. There we go. So I showed class basically how the 5 world religions view the afterlife. Now, in terms of Christianity, there was no surprises. We see, we see the stars, and we see the heavens, and we see angels, and we see Jesus. A lot of people had an image of what heaven is in their minds. And hell, you can see the torture and the misery, and the kind of looks like a heavy metal t-shirt, to be honest with you, but I don't know what's going on here. I mean, it's some bloody, nasty, ugly business, but there's a duality. There's a heaven, there's a hell. You are going to wind up in one of the 2 places. Now, in terms of Buddhism, Buddhism sees it quite differently. Now, in Buddhism, we see the interconnectedness with this ribbon. We see the cycle of rebirth and eventually reaching nirvana. It's not a one-trip sort of thing. It's a multiple lifetime. So a very, very different way of looking at the afterlife than some religions. Now, Islam looks very, very similar to Christianity. There's that duality. There's the heaven, and we see clouds, and we see angels, and the like. And the hell version, the burning and the torture and the unpleasantness. And again, it's the duality piece. You are going to wind up in one place or the other. Now, of the 5 religions, the religion that concerns itself the least about the afterlife would be Judaism. Judaism is more concerned about tikkun olam, this world, this time. And it's a fairly vague notion, warmth, light compared to darkness, cold, not a point of emphasis by comparison to other religions. And then we can see Hinduism, a similar ribbon, a similar sentiment, a similar interconnectedness, rebirth, and moksha, and this level of higher consciousness. So this is a basic visual of how the 5 religions see the afterlife. Now, in terms of the West, and America is a Western culture, the Divine Comedy. The Divine Comedy came out in 1320 in Italy. It's a long, long time ago, but it still resonates in the minds of Westerners, and it's a fantastic book. I've read it, and it's a quest through hell, purgatory, and paradise. And my dog barking, clearly, he's in some sort of hell, or it's the mailman. I don't know. Now, in terms of how it's structured, there are 3 parts: purgatory, paradise, and the inferno. Now, the one we're going to focus on is the inferno, probably the most well-known of the 3. Now, who was Dante Alighieri? Dante Alighieri was Italian. You probably gathered that by the name. Perry, be quiet. Dirty dog. Let's see. Perry? You're interrupting my video, Perry. He continues to interrupt the video. Dirty, rotten dog. But Dante was a writer, and a very well-known book, still read today. And he had a muse, and I think this is interesting, Beatrice. Beatrice, he never married her. It wasn't his wife or anything, but she provided him the inspiration and the higher beauty that inspired him to write this incredible epic piece. So it goes to show you the power of a good inspiration. And I think somebody who's very pretty certainly helps the writer be creative. Now again, Dante was brought up in Italy, a Roman Catholic society, and you can see lots of symbolism in this piece. 3 levels similar to the Trinity, the 3 parts of the Trinity. 9 is 3 times 3, and mathematically it is in line with Christianity of the time. And we can see that hell progresses deeper and deeper, and it funnels down and down, and things get worse as you go down the 9 levels. And this is a great line. The sign above the gates of hell, abandon all hope, ye who enter here. Very Halloweeny, very cool. And this is what begins the Inferno. And the Inferno, like I said, it goes into a funnel-shaped pit, and the center is located beneath Jerusalem. And they designate each ring for a particular sin. And this is the creativity piece, I think. The punishments fit the sin, if you will. And and it gets worse and worse as you descend deeper and deeper. And here's a good visual here, and of all the different people. So in class, we did a little self-test to see our respective sins. And again, this isn't with 2017 eyes. This is with the thinking of the time. And there is limbo, which is the people who are good people but who are unbaptized. For example, the ancient Greeks who lived before the time of Christianity. Circle 2, people who are too lustful, their sexuality gets out of hand. This is the circle I wound up in. Gluttony, where you just eat too much, you consume too much. The prodigal, you don't follow the duty of the family, you break away from that. Wrathful, you're angry, gloomy. I think a lot of high school people can probably feel that just by walking through the hallways. Heretics in circle 6. Circle 7, the violent. Circle 8, the fraudulent. The hypocrites. The deceivers. And then circle 9, the traitors. Those are the worst. The absolute worst thing you can be in Dante's Inferno is a traitor. And there's a concept called divine retribution, meaning the punishments in hell are regulated by retribution. You're getting punished for what you did in this life. And contrapasso, which is suffer the opposite. So you are punishing that contrasts the sin itself. Really kind of a cool technique. And just to reiterate my points, the Inferno is part of a work called the Divine Comedy. The Middle Ages meant that comedy meant human experience began in tragedy and ended in happiness, and it's an allegory, it's an example. And although it's very, very old, it still resonates in the West because when it was very, very popular, and it spread throughout Europe, and people read it, and these ideas stuck into their heads, and it's still with us. And the final goal with Dante's Inferno was salvation by the cross. So when he was describing in graphic detail these horrible things that were happening to you in hell, it's kind of a heads up saying you better get on the right path and wind up, in Paradiso, not hell, because hell's not a place you want to be, and really, really disgusting things. But in reading the Divine Comedy, Paradiso is a beautiful, glorious, positive. He makes paradise as positive as hell is negative, and that's the big point of why he's doing it. Now, the other piece of the humanities thing of today was a sermon. Jonathan Edwards, Sinners in the Hands of the Angry God, which he released in the 1720s, almost 300 years ago. But, it was very persuasive, and the copies went throughout various congregations, and people, would hear it in their churches and read it. And it was very, very scary. A 45-minute sermon. I play a short excerpt in class, and the line that I think is a good one is, "The God that holds you over the pit of hell, much as one holds a spider, abhors you, and it is dreadfully provoked. His wrath towards you burns like fire. He looks upon you as worthy of nothing else but to be cast into the fire." And when Edwards preached, people would stop and cry out, "What can I do? My gosh, this is horrible. Help me here." And again, these two pieces, I'm going to call this sermon a form of literature, still resonates in the minds of the West, and it affects the theology and the sociology of the people. Therefore, that constitutes the humanities.